Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into historical English cuisine.
Ooh.
It sounds maybe a little dry, but we've got a great book to guide us.
Yeah.
Cooking Through the Ages,
Yeah.
a no-nonsense guide to historical English cuisine by Conrad Riker.
It's really fascinating stuff.
And I think what's really cool about it is how much it reveals about, like, English society beyond just what people ate.
Food is so much more than just sustenance, especially back then. It's tied into like power,
Right, yeah.
religion, gender,
barge,
yeah.
all this stuff. It's all woven in there.
So let's imagine pre-industrial England.
Okay.
What are people eating? Where's their food coming from?
Well, you got to imagine England was like a much wilder place then.
Yeah.
Hunting and gathering was the way of life.
So like venison for everyone?
Not quite. Venison was a huge status symbol.
Oh, okay.
The aristocracy, they had the vast hunting grounds where they could hunt deer.
Yeah, even bears sometimes. And it was a display of their power and wealth.
While the average person's out there trying to catch a rabbit or two.
Exactly. And you see that division even in the types of game they pursued.
Yeah.
So rabbit and hare were definitely more common for the lower classes.
Right.
But it wasn't just about the men hunting either.
Yeah.
You know, somebody had to cook all this.
Right, of course.
The women played a crucial role in turning those hunted animals into actual meals.
Yeah.
Even if they weren't out there with the bows and arrows.
Right.
Talk about skill.
Yeah.
Turning these basic ingredients into like game pies, hearty stews, things that could actually feed a family.
So already we're seeing how food is like tied to gender roles too.
Oh, absolutely.
But then things start to change, right?
Yeah.
We get the agricultural revolution.
Ah, yes, the game changer.
Okay.
This is where we see that massive shift from hunting and gathering to farming as like the dominant way of life.
Right.
And we get the introduction of these staple crops, you know?
Okay. Wheat, barley, peas, lentils.
Yeah.
These become like the backbone of the English diet.
And that means lots of bread.
Yeah.
The book calls it the staff of life.
Yeah, and it really was. It wasn't just food.
Okay.
It was a symbol. It appears in religious practices.
Yeah.
Literature.
Yeah.
Folklore.
Yeah.
And even the quality of bread you ate
Yeah.
was a big indicator of your social standing.
So like white bread for the rich and the rougher stuff for everyone else.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was pretty much the case.
Okay.
And while the agricultural revolution definitely brought progress, it also brought new problems.
Okay.
You know, imagine a diet that's almost entirely grain-based.
Right.
If you couldn't afford much else,
Yeah.
it probably wasn't a great time to be healthy,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. So we got bread,
Yeah,
but even bread needs a little something something.
right. Needs a little excitement.
Yeah. The book talks about the spice trade.
And that's where things get really interesting. The arrival of spices like
Yeah.
cinnamon, ginger, cloves, nutmeg.
Yeah.
It was like a culinary explosion.
Okay.
Suddenly, even simple dishes like sops, which is like a kind of medieval French toast, or wassail, that hot mulled cider,
Yeah.
were completely transformed.
So it's hard to imagine English food without those spices now.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But back then, they were a real luxury,
Yeah.
a sign of wealth and status.
Right.
The spice trade literally connected different parts of the world,
Yeah.
and England was right in the thick of it.
Food wasn't just local anymore, it was global.
Exactly.
Wow.
And those exotic spices,
Yeah.
they weren't just making food tastier,
Yeah.
they were making certain people look more important.
Right.
You know, if you could afford to spice up your food, you were showing off, basically.
Okay, so we've got hunting, farming, international trade, but food goes bad.
Right.
What about keeping things edible before refrigerator?
Ah, that's where preservation techniques come in.
Okay.
Think pippling.
Smoking,
Yeah.
drying, even fermenting. These weren't just like grandma's recipes.
Yeah.
These were essential for survival.
So your pantry was basically your lifeline.
Absolutely. Those jars of pickled vegetables
Yeah.
that smoked meat,
Right.
that was your insurance against a bad harvest or a long winter.
Yeah.
And they weren't just about practicality either.
Okay.
These techniques really gave English cuisine a lot of its unique character.
Right. What are some examples of that?
We got Branston pickle.
Okay.
That's a classic English condiment.
Right.
It's been around for centuries.
Right.
Or salt beef, what we know today as corned beef.
Okay.
These are foods with history.
Yeah.
And it's really fascinating how these techniques are making a comeback today.
Right.
People are interested in
Yeah.
sustainability and those traditional methods.
That like those old ways of doing things were ahead of their time in a way.
Yeah, in many ways, yeah. And it speaks to a resourcefulness that I think we can all learn from. Preserving food wasn't just a chore.
Right.
It was a way of life,
Yeah.
a way of respecting the resources that you had.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've seen how food was about way more than just eating.
Right.
It was tied to social status, gender roles,
Absolutely.
even this global landscape.
Yeah.
But we're just getting started.
Oh, we've just scratched the surface.
Right.
The book goes into fascinating detail about how food was used in religious rituals,
Okay.
the symbolism behind different dishes,
Yeah.
even the evolution of cooking technology.
Well, I'm definitely hungry for more.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a flash to continue our deep dives
Okay.
into historical English cuisine.
Sounds good. So, we were talking about those preservation techniques before the break.
Yeah.
But there's another side to this whole food story that we got to talk about.
Herbs.
Herbs.
Herbs, you mean like for flavor?
Yeah, flavor, but also medicine. Oh, okay.
You got to remember, we're talking about a time long before,
Yeah.
modern medicine.
Right.
People really relied on their knowledge of plants for healing.
So it's like chamomile tea for a headache.
Exactly.
Okay.
Parsley for digestion, mint for nausea.
Right.
These remedies might seem simple now,
Yeah.
but back then they were essential.
Yeah.
And some herbs were incredibly valuable. The book mentions that rosemary
Okay.
was actually worth more than diamonds during the Elizabethan era.
Wow. That's pretty wild. You'd think they'd be putting rosemary on their crowns instead of jewels.
Right.
But, okay, so we've got herbs. But just like with food, I'm guessing access to certain herbs
Oh, yeah.
wasn't exactly equal.
Of course not.
Right.
The wealthy, they could afford a wider variety, while the poor had to rely on what they could grow or forage
Right.
themselves.
Yeah.
So it's another example of how even health and well-being
Right.
were tied to social status. It just makes you realize how much we take for granted today.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about what people are eating,
Yep.
how they're preserving it,
Right.
even how they're using it for medicine. But how do we actually know all this stuff?
Well, besides, cookbooks
Okay.
and historical records,
Mm-hmm.
literature actually gives us some amazing insights.
Okay.
The book dives into how food is portrayed in,
Okay.
Chaucer's Canterbury Tales and Shakespeare's play.
Wait, so Shakespeare was writing about food?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Think about, the banquet scene in Macbeth.
Okay.
It's not just a backdrop for all the drama.
Right.
It's like a window into the opulence and the power dynamics of the royal court.
Okay.
The types of food, the
Right,
way
right.
it's served,
Yeah.
who gets to eat, what it all tells a story.
So food wasn't just fuel, it was a form of storytelling.
Exactly. And you see this in the Canterbury Tales, too.
Okay.
The meals that are described for each pilgrim, from the wealthy merchant to the humble plowman,
Yeah.
they reveal so much about their social class and even their personalities.
That's so interesting. So food is like this secret language in a way.
It is. And it's not just about status either. Religion played a huge role in shaping what people ate.
Of course.
Think about Lent,
Okay.
a time of fasting and abstinence. That had a major impact
Right.
on food consumption
Yeah.
and culinary traditions.
So no meat on Fridays.
Exactly. But then you had feast days
Mm-hmm.
and religious celebrations
Right.
where specific foods were essential. Like
Yeah.
Christmas, for instance.
Right.
It wouldn't be Christmas without certain dishes.
Right.
Food was a way of expressing faith
Yeah.
and connecting with your community.
Okay, so we've gone from hunting with bows and arrows
Right.
to these fancy feasts fit for a king.
Yeah.
How did cooking itself actually change over time?
That's a journey in itself. The book takes us from cooking over open fires,
Okay.
which was smoke. Yeah.
And unpredictable
Right.
to the innovations that eventually led to the modern stove.
Okay, so no more burnt dinners.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
But, the domed oven was a game changer. It allowed for much more controlled baking.
Okay.
Then came cast iron stoves, gas stoves, electric ovens.
Wow.
Each step brought, more efficiency
Right.
and control.
Yeah. It's just amazing to think about how much effort went into something that
Yeah.
we totally take for granted today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to time a roast perfectly
Oh, yeah.
over an open fire.
Right.
Our ancestors,
Yeah.
they had to be incredibly resourceful.
Yeah.
But then, of course, another huge change came along.
Yeah.
refrigeration.
Right, because before refrigerators,
Yeah.
preserving food was a constant battle,
Oh, totally.
especially in the warmer months.
Absolutely. All those techniques we talked about,
Right.
the pickling, smoking, drying,
Mm-hmm.
those weren't just for flavor.
Yeah.
They were keeping people alive.
Yeah, but refrigeration,
Right.
yeah. changed everything.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you could store perishable foods for way longer, experiment with new ingredients. It was a
Really?
whole culinary revolution.
It's hard to imagine life without a fridge now.
I know, right?
Yeah. But like
Yeah.
you said before,
Mm-hmm.
those older techniques are having a comeback.
They are. People are rediscovering the value of those traditional methods,
Right.
both for flavor and for sustainability.
Yeah.
It's like we're coming full circle in a way.
Okay, so we've got England figuring out how to cook,
Mm-hmm.
store their food.
Yeah.
But, England's not an island.
Right.
What about influences from other places?
That's where trade and globalization come in. England's always been a
Right.
crossroads of cultures.
Right.
And you really see that reflected in the food.
Yeah. We talked about the spice trade earlier, but
Right.
what else?
Well, think about sugar.
Okay.
That was a huge game changer
Right.
for English cuisine, especially for desserts and preserves.
Oh, yeah.
But trade brought in so much more.
Okay.
Potatoes, tomatoes, peppers,
Oh, yeah.
all from the Americas.
Right. It's mind-blowing when you think about
Right.
how much of what we eat today
Yeah,
came from somewhere else.
it is.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about the ingredients either.
Okay.
Trade also brought new ideas and cooking techniques.
Okay, what's an example of that?
Well, the Norman conquest, for example,
Okay.
introduced French culinary influences, and
Yeah.
that led to more sophisticated dishes
Uh-huh.
and dining customs.
So English food is basically a melting pot.
Exactly. And that diversity continues today, with the popularity of Indian, Chinese, Italian cuisines.
Right.
It's really a reflection of how multicultural England has become.
Okay, so we've got this incredible mix of influences,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm guessing not everyone was eating the same thing.
Oh, of course not.
Right.
The differences between, the rich and the poor were really stark. The book really paints a picture of this contrast.
So what were the wealthy folks dining on?
Well, imagine these feasts
Okay.
with multiple courses,
Okay.
exotic ingredients,
Mm-hmm.
elaborate presentations.
Oh,
They
yeah.
weren't just eating for sustenance.
Right.
They were really showing off their wealth and status.
Okay, so what are we talking here?
We're talking roasted peacock,
Oh, wow.
swan, venison,
Okay.
all prepared with these elaborate sauces and spices.
Okay, sounds a little over the top.
It was. Meanwhile, the poor were often relying on, bread, cheese, whatever vegetables they could grow or forage.
Yeah.
Their meals were about survival,
Right.
not extravagant.
And even the bread they ate was different, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fine white bread for the wealthy,
Okay.
coarser, darker bread for the poor.
Right.
Food was really a marker of your
Yeah.
place in society,
Yeah.
even down to the most basic staple.
It's amazing how much that inequality was reflected in what people ate.
It is. And it wasn't just about the ingredients either.
Yeah.
The wealthy also had these elaborate dining customs and etiquette,
Yeah.
Multiple courses,
Yeah.
special utensils, servants attending to their every need. It was like a whole performance.
While the poor were probably just happy to have a full stomach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dining for the wealthy
Yeah.
was a social event,
Oh,
a
yeah.
way to flaunt their power and connections.
Yeah.
For the poor, it was about necessity and practicality.
It's just a stark reminder of those social divides that existed back then.
Yeah.
And speaking of divides,
Yeah.
the book also talks about hunting
Right.
and how it goes beyond just getting food.
Right. Hunting was really deeply intertwined with power and control.
Okay.
The aristocracy had these vast hunting grounds.
Mm-hmm.
They hunted for sport, for pleasure.
Right.
It was a symbol of their dominance.
While the average person wasn't even allowed to hunt.
Right, exactly. Poaching was severely punished.
Right.
It was about keeping resources in the hands of the elite,
Yeah.
controlling who had access to what.
It's like even the act of hunting was a way of reinforcing
Absolutely.
those social hierarchies.
Yeah.
But of course, people still had to eat. So what were they doing?
Well, the lower classes, they found ways to supplement their diets through hunting smaller game,
Okay.
using traps and snares and things like that.
It sounds dangerous.
It was, but when you're struggling to survive,
Yeah.
sometimes you got to take risks.
Right. Okay, so we've been on this incredible journey through, centuries of English culinary history.
It has been a journey, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's amazing to see how food has been tied to pretty much every aspect of life.
Right.
From social status to power dynamics,
Absolutely.
religion, gender roles.
Yeah.
We talked about hunting and gathering, the agricultural revolution, the spice trade,
Yeah.
the evolution of cooking technology,
Right.
preservation techniques. Like,
Yeah.
it's just mind-boggling how much has changed over the centuries.
I know. It's amazing to think about
Yeah.
how people were living their lives and how different it was back then.
And yet, like, despite all of those changes,
Right.
there are these certain themes that just keep coming up.
Yeah. What kind of things are you thinking about?
Oh, well, like the desire for delicious food,
Oh, absolutely.
the importance of community and tradition,
Yeah.
and how food is so connected to our identity.
Right. Food is more than just fuel. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a story. It's like a reflection of who we are and
Yeah.
where we come from.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so cool about understanding the history of food.
Mm-hmm.
It gives us this deeper appreciation
Yeah.
for, the culinary world that we live in today.
It connects us to the past in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So, as we kind of wrap up our deep dive here into historical English cuisine, what are some of the big takeaways?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that food was never just about sustenance.
Yeah.
Especially back then in historical England.
Yeah.
It was about so much more.
Yeah.
It was a powerful symbol of social status,
Okay.
a tool for wielding power,
Right.
a source of cultural identity,
Yeah.
and even a catalyst for social change.
Yeah, we saw how the wealthy used those like lavish feasts
Yeah.
to kind of show off their power and dominance.
Oh, absolutely. It was all about,
Yeah. Yeah.
impressing your guests, solidifying alliances,
Yeah.
making sure everybody knew who was in charge.
Yeah, while the poor were often relying on those simpler,
Yes.
sometimes meager meals just to get by.
Exactly.
And we saw how all those regional dishes
Yeah.
reflected those like unique characteristics of different parts of England.
Absolutely. And how immigration
Yeah.
brought, those new flavors and traditions to the table.
And we talked about how food could be like a tool of oppression. Think about those laws
Yeah.
that restricted hunting rights.
Yeah, exactly.
But then also food could be this like force for resistance and change.
Mm-hmm.
Think about like the bread riots.
Oh, yeah, those are powerful
Yeah.
expressions of people's anger.
Yeah, it wasn't just about empty stomachs. It was about like
Yeah.
injustice and unfairness.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that food is never really neutral.
Right.
It's always tied to these bigger systems.
Yeah.
Social, economic,
Yeah.
political.
It's all connected.
So as we kind of navigate the complexities of, the modern food system,
Yeah.
I think it's crucial to keep those historical lessons in mind.
Absolutely. We need to be aware of the power dynamics.
Yeah.
We need to advocate for fair access to resources.
Right.
And we need to really appreciate and celebrate that diverse culinary heritage that's shaped, the world that we live in today.
And I think it's a call to action for all of us to think about our own choices, to be more conscious consumers,
Right.
to support sustainable food systems,
Yeah.
and to, really celebrate all those amazing flavors that make up
I love that.
our culinary world.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
So if you're hungry for more,
Okay.
be sure to check out Cooking Through the Ages,
Yeah.
a no-nonsense guide to historical English cuisine by Conrad Riker.
Great book.
You can find it on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, happy cooking
Happy cooking.
and bon appetit.
Bon appetit.